Hi and welcome back. This is Nigel Quinnan, VP of Development at LumenVox, and this is our final seventh part of our seven-part video series installing Asterisk13, UniMRCP, and LumenVox 13.1. In this episode, we will be going through and testing everything to make sure that it's all working as we expect. There's a little bit of a recap. Let's go back over some of the installation steps that brought us to where we are. So we installed PJSIP, a requirement for Asterisk. We then went ahead and installed Asterisk13. Then we installed the dependencies that are needed for UniMRCP, and then installed the UniMRCP library itself. Then once that was installed, we went ahead and configured the Asterisk UniMRCP modules, which again allowed Asterisk to communicate using MRCP with the LumenVox speech services. Then once all of that was in place, we went ahead and installed and configured the LumenVox services. So as you can see, we're at the seventh step, final step, where we're going to be going through and testing everything, just covering some of the details that we went through earlier, and maybe give you some tips about debugging and testing going forward. A lot of the details that we'll be going through here are actually included in our knowledge base article, testing the LumenVox installation on Asterisk, which can be found in lumenvox.com/knowledgebase, and then navigating down through the menu here to the testing the LumenVox installation on Asterisk in the menu to the left. So some of the previous videos, we actually covered some of the details in these additional articles describing how to go about setting up and configuring for Asterisk and LumenVox, and also including the UniMRCP modules. But this one here, we're actually going to be going through and doing the testing. So if you recall back in our second video, we went ahead and used the SIP phone, which in my case was an X-Lite phone. Once again, you can use whichever SIP phone you're most comfortable with to do the testing, to call into Asterisk and trigger some of the dialplan applications that we'll be using to do the various tests. So if you recall also from the second video, we installed some sample dialplan applications in the extensions.conf file, and details of those are actually shown here. I kind of skipped through some of the details at the time. They weren't really important at the time, but as you can see, we are testing the ASR configuration here, TTS, and also the generic speech interface, which is an older kind of backward compatible interface, if you like, using one of the tests, the final test that we'll actually be using. This one is associated with extension 103. The interesting thing about the Res Speech UniMRCP module is that it's as I mentioned, it's an older kind of backward compatible module. This one does not have any TTS functionality or capability. So really you should probably avoid using this one, but if somebody is using it, we're going to go ahead and test it anyway. So the newer implementations are using the Res UniMRCP module, which has both recognition and synthesis, and there's a combined version as well that we'll be talking about. So again, the details that we're going to be running through for these tests are contained on this web page in our knowledge base. So back to our console window, I'm going to go ahead and open up the etc asterisk extensions.conf file, just to kind of remind ourselves some of those changes that we added back in that second video. Apparently I have it open somewhere else. So just go ahead and look at some of the changes that we put in there. So we've got the 4 extensions that we added, and then the various applications or scripts that are associated with those extensions. If you recall, the first one that we ran was a simple hello world, and this really just verified that the Asterisk installation itself was installed and configured correctly. So this hello world is not using any ASR or TTS. It's just a simple hello world application that verifies that Asterisk is working. The other 3 samples that we have are testing TTS, ASR and the generic or backward compatible ASR interface. So again, this is just a reminder that we added these back in the second video, and the web page that we just looked at was where we found details, or where you can find details of what these things mean. So just exiting that, excuse me, we'll go ahead and start up the Asterisk service again. So we're going to reconnect that with some verbosity so we can see what's happening. We'll just go ahead and use our SIP phone over here to dial extension 100.
Hello, world.
And hopefully you heard the hello world response there. Again, this is just verifying that Asterisk is in fact functional. We'll dial extension 101 now.
Welcome to LumenVox.
And hopefully you heard the welcome to LumenVox TTS test, and that verified that our TTS services are working correctly. So we dialed the dial plan in Asterisk, and that triggered the MRCP synth functionality to verify that the synthesis connection, the TTS synthesis, was working with LumenVox. So we verified that that's all working. The next test, 102, extension 102, is going to verify the ASR. So we'll dial that one. Yes. So after the beep, I said yes, and as you saw, we got some diagnostic information here within the console, and the response shows that we had a confidence score of 99, and the word that was decoded was in fact yes. So that shows us that our speech recognition is also working. So the final test here, extension 103, is going to be testing the older generic interface. So I'll go ahead and dial that. Yes. So as you can see, that one worked as well. We got a result. The result was true, which was the yes, and confidence was 99 yet again. So again, the results from this test are slightly different than the MRCP recog results, but you can still use that the same. Again, the 103 extension test is an older generic speech API interface, and again, you should probably avoid using that one given the chance. So that's it. We have verified that ASR and TTS services are working correctly. So they're all installed, licensed, and configured correctly, and Asterisk is doing exactly what we want it to do. Now, we're often asked various questions about Asterisk and MRCP and how they connect with LumenVox. Again, we're not experts on either Asterisk or UniMRCP here at LumenVox. We do try and be experts on LumenVox. So what we've done is we've tried to put together some information again in our knowledge base online that allows you to come through and take a look at what we've tested and what we recommend. So if you check out this article before you begin Asterisk LumenVox installation, it's always best to check this out. We try and keep any issues and updates on this page for anybody that's running Asterisk, just to help you, guide you as best we can from any issues that we become aware of. In fact, there is a matrix here that we try and maintain that describes which versions we've tested against which versions of UniMRCP and LumenVox. In fact, in this video series, you can see at the bottom here, we tested against Asterisk13.4, UniMRCP 1.3.0, and LumenVox version 13. It's actually 13.1 we just tested, but we do know that 13.0.400 also works. So these are sanctioned and supported versions of LumenVox, and we know that we have tested against these versions of Asterisk and UniMRCP. So if there's any doubt, come to this matrix, check it out. This should keep you in good shape. You'll notice here that there was a version of UniMRCP 1.2.0 that actually had a pretty significant bug associated with it, and we recommend you avoid that version. So don't use 1.2.0. Stick with 1.1.0 or 1.3.0. The 1.2.0 is problematic, so definitely avoid that one. The symptoms you'll see if you do happen to run that version will be exceptions whenever you try to do speech rec. The bug was detected in the UniMRCP code, and we believe that this has been fixed in 1.3.0. In fact, we've confirmed that it is fixed in 1.3.0. Okay, some additional information that might be useful to you. Again, now that we've got everything working, you may want to have a think about what's next, how you can work with Asterisk and develop more applications and do something more than these simple tests that we've provided for you. Take a look in the development section here. Again, we have a lot of articles that describe some of the details. The generic speech API, this is the older one. Again, we recommend you kind of avoid this one if you can. However, there are some details in these other articles that describe the MRCP Recog, the MRCP Synth, which are the two applications on extension 101 and 102 that we tested a moment ago. We did not actually test the Synth and Recog, but you can certainly check it out here. Along with the various parameters that these functions take. Synth and Recog, as the name suggests, you can actually do a synthesis and recognition at the same time, which allows the synthesis to be barginable. So if you want to allow a prompt to be spoken, and then once the user starts speaking, it will actually barge in and stop the synthesis, and you'll get the decode to happen. So again, you can see there are a whole bunch of different options here. Definitely need to check out all of these as you need. There's a lot of functionality actually built into these functions, so definitely encourage you to check out what the various options are. You can see there's DTMF and a whole bunch of other things. One or two examples we try to provide as well. And the same goes for the MRCP Recog. A variety of different options here if you're using multiple grammars, for example. And same with the MRCP synthesis. So the parameters are text, which could be actual text, or you can provide SSML in line, or you can provide a URI to an SSML document. So again, these things are very flexible, and we encourage you to read through these knowledge base articles that we've put together for you. You should find them useful. We hope you find them useful. Okay, so back to our console here. Let's try and give you some additional debugging information or debugging steps that you can go through. Obviously, you saw when we were doing calls, we're seeing debug information appear here in the Asterisk console. So what we can do is go ahead and exit the Asterisk console now. And instead of looking at the debug information through here, it's also worth noting that there are a variety of different debugging options built into Asterisk. So one of those, you can actually enable full logging, which can be useful if you're trying to track down a specific problem. So one of the things you could do is to edit the logger configuration file for Asterisk. So let's go to etc asterisk and logger.conf. So if you go down to the bottom of this file, you'll see there are a number of options shown right here, which allow you, obviously you can read through and figure out what these things do. Console, for example, this describes the kinds of notices that get sent to the console. Again, you recall we were increasing verbosity to see what was going on. If you want, for example, verbose logging to be in the console, you could just go ahead and add it to this file right here, this configuration file. But something that's often quite useful when you are debugging Asterisk is this full log. This contains pretty much everything, including the kitchen sink, in the log. So by default, this is disabled, and you really shouldn't have this enabled for production. It's going to be spinning a lot of detail into this log. which could be problematic. So again, just have this running if you're trying to debug a specific issue. So this is the full log. Go ahead and save that. Now what we need to do is restart Asterisk to be able to make a use of that that updated logger.conf file. So what we can do now is, let's see, I guess if we just take a look at what happens, what's getting logged to that full file. So we can just do a tail and follow it, and this is the location of that full log file that gets generated from Asterisk. So just go ahead and do a tail from that, and let's go ahead and do another call into the system.
Welcome to LumenVox.
And hopefully you heard the welcome to LumenVox there. So that was the TTS synthesis test that we ran. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of detail, perhaps too much detail. It can be confusing, but if you really want the details, you can look in here. If you've got the details from the LumenVox media server log and you want to compare the two, like if you've got some weird issue going on, if you compare the output from this log to the output from the LumenVox media server log, compare the two, you might be able to spot whatever the issue is. In fact, if we scroll back up a little bit here, you can see that some of the MRCP and RTSP traffic is actually contained within here. So you can see things, all kinds of things being logged to this file. So again, it can be very useful if you are debugging a specific issue. But again, I would encourage you not to have this enabled for production traffic. But anyway, that's one of the things that you can do to run some diagnostics from Asterisk if you want to do it outside of the Asterisk console. So some additional debugging information you can gather is using the LumenVox dashboard. Now the dashboard is a web interface that allows you access to the LumenVox services, and this is basically a web service that's hosted by the LV Manager daemon. So we can access this using the IP address of the machine, and then it's going to be using port 8080 and it's HTTPS traffic. So it's secure traffic from port 8080. You can reconfigure this as needed in the manager.conf settings. So let's see if this is running. Okay, it says the connection is not private. This is correct because the certificate is invalid. The one that we ship with the manager is an invalid self-signed certificate. That's not really bad. It's just what we ship. We do have a knowledge base article that describes how to get yourself a valid signed certificate and install and use that instead, which makes this warning go away. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and ignore this and proceed to the site. Okay, so this is the one of the pages from the LumenVox dashboard. This is the summary page, gives you a quick description of the state of the various services. We have the manager service, the license server service, media server, ASR server, TTS server, and this one at the bottom here is an unusual one. It's the call indexer. It's really not used that often, and most people accidentally go ahead and start it. You probably don't want to do that unless you really are using the call indexer for its designed purpose, which is to collect call SRE files for use with the LumenVox tuner tool. That's not necessarily a requirement for using the tuner, it's just one of the methods for gathering that data. Again, you probably want to leave this off unless you really know that you need this thing. Anyway, some of the things that you can configure using this interface are, let's say if we wanted to increase the verbosity for the media server, we can go to the configuration screen and look at the verbosity setting. Currently it's low. We can set that to high. Scroll down here and then just go ahead and update the settings tells us that those changes were applied. And if we go back to the summary screen again, and this time look at the logs for the media server, it should give us some indication of what's going on. So let's go ahead and make another test call.
Welcome to LumenVox.
Hopefully you heard the welcome to LumenVox once again. This time if we refresh the logs, again you start to see some of the traffic from this test that we just ran. So we got the setup message. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down here. Sorry, this is a little painful. We can see that the synthesizer resource was in fact created. We got a speak request. Welcome to LumenVox, and that was what was used to perform the synthesis. So again, if there were any issues or any errors that were encountered, they would show up within this log. So again, there's quite a few things you can do within this dashboard interface. You can obviously look at licensing and a bunch of other things. You can come to the monitoring tab and see what kind of state the server is in. In this case, we can see the overall state of the machine itself, so the overall memory use of the machine, disk space, and CPU utilization over time. Or you can look at the various LumenVox services. Again, this is showing what's happened with the LumenVox services over the last 6 hours. There's probably not been that much going on since we've been just testing. Again, everything is in the between 0 and 1% CPU utilization. So clearly not overly stressing the machine. Let's see. There is a help tab here which can be quite useful. There's a lot of interesting and helpful links in this help tab that take you to the LumenVox knowledge base, various pages. So these can be quite useful, and this tab is often overlooked. But there's a lot of useful links in here. You can also look at statistics if we want to see how many calls, for example, there have been. You can see these kinds of things. We've had 14 test calls since we last restarted the LumenVox services, so not too many. If one of the services is not running for some reason, that should show up here, and you can still look at the logs to see if you can determine what kind of problem there was. And obviously, if you make some changes to the configuration that require a service restart, typically the change will tell you, when you do the apply settings here, obviously no changes made. But if you make certain changes, it will say, hey, you need to restart the service. So you can restart the service from either from this button or from the summary page. So again, we've tried to make this as useful a tool as we can from a configuration, setup, and diagnostic perspective. It's worth noting that in future versions of LumenVox, we're probably going to be adding more features to this dashboard since we found that most users these days are actually using the dashboard for their configuration and testing. So adding more functionality to this it makes it easier for our users. So the only other debugging advice I can give you is, again, check the logs, LumenVox logs. We try and log as much as we can to be helpful. So any errors should show up in the LumenVox logs if it is something that's within the LumenVox realm. Obviously, the Asterisk logs are another place to check. Oftentimes what we find the biggest problems are if you have the LumenVox installed on a different machine. As I mentioned through the videos there, you need to set up the IP addresses of the local platform machine, which in this case would be Asterisk, and also the LumenVox IP address settings. They need to be correct for the machine that's being used. I know that in this video series, we installed everything on the one machine, which are mainly using the loopback address, the 127.0.0.1. But if those are on different machines, you really do need to take the time to put the correct IP addresses in there. The kinds of things that you'll run into if you do not do that, you could end up with a situation where, let's say, the ASR can hear you but is not getting a response back, or vice versa if you are sending requests to the LumenVox system but you're not getting any TTS audio coming back. Those kinds of things tend to indicate that there's a problem with the IP addresses. So you're getting one-way communication but not two-way communication. Again, that's kind of a giveaway that there's something up with the IP addresses. Otherwise, the installation, the configuration is reasonably straightforward, and hopefully through this video series, we've made it a little bit easier for you to get that configuration and set up running. So where to go from here? Obviously, we mentioned the LumenVox knowledge base. There's a whole bunch of articles in there that we hope you find useful and interesting. Another place to look is the LumenVox developer network, which is developer.lumenvox.com. So we've tried to put a bunch of articles in here, learning and building, and there's also the forums. So let's take a quick look at the learning. We've got a bunch of online videos and white papers and different articles describing a whole bunch of different things that you can do. You know, how to use grammars, how to do DTMF recognition, and so on and so forth. There's also the build section where we help you build applications. As you can see, there are applications here for Asterisk using PHP, using the generic speech interface. There's an Asterisk store locator application and an Asterisk speech-enabled call router using dialplan. Again, just mentioning briefly, Asterisk has various ways of developing applications on them. One of the simpler ones is using the dialplan scripting language. So again, let's take a quick peek at this. We've put a little bit of time and energy into this one. So this is obviously a little bit more complex than the samples we just ran through, and you can actually download this entire thing and run it yourself. So you can look through the various grammars that are put together. Again, this is very simple. You would put your own users and extensions and things in here. But if you go through the actual dial plan itself, there are a lot of different settings that are in place, and hopefully the comments that we've provided here give you a good indication of what exactly is going on. So if we look down, again, a whole bunch of different things going on. You can look in our knowledge base to see what's going on here. This is actually parsing the NLSML response from LumenVox. So what that means is LumenVox responds using NLSML, which is an XML format of responses based on the MRCP specification, which is, it's not easily human readable, but it contains all of the information and is very very machine readable. What this recog instance actually does is it will parse this. It's a very convenient function for parsing that NLSML, and it basically passes in the instance that the instance and the nbest version that you're wanting to parse as part of the result. So in this case, it's the first instance and first parse of the result, and it's looking at the looking at the output to be yes from the semantic interpretation. So all of this is kind of described in our documentation, but again, this is a much more complex example. In fact, it's a working example that you can go ahead and work your way through. So again, we've put a good bit in here, and hopefully this helps you to use LumenVox with Asterisk dialplan if that is your intention. Okay, we have gone through a whole bunch of different examples for you. We've got everything set up. So we have Asterisk, UniMRCP, and LumenVox all set up and configured. Oops, I didn't mention the forums, so you can come to the developer.lumenvox.com engage page, and we have a bunch of developer forums that are open to folks. So again, you can come through here, and if you have questions, look through the existing questions that are here. If you've got issues with installation and configuration, again, you can post articles to these various forums. The LumenVox support folks do monitor these, so if you want to ask anything, you can, and we'll try and get back to you reasonably quickly. So we encourage people to use these forums, both from a learning perspective and also if you have any questions that you would like answered. We can certainly address those here. So that's it. I think we've gone through everything. We've got LumenVox, Asterisk, and MRCP all configured and working. So hopefully you found this series of videos interesting and helpful. I'll go ahead and update our knowledge base and include an article that goes through some of this stuff so that you can follow through, and some of the command lines that I worked through really quickly will be there, and you'll be able to use that as a guide going through these videos. Again, thank you for joining me. I hope you found it interesting.